Hey, what's going on, guys? I want to take a minute to kind of build off of yesterday's discussion. I've got a lot of time to think about certain things and formulate some stuff. So I wanted to talk about, and I didn't write it up there, sorry. Capacity versus load. Where our capacity is what we have the ability to do within a given day, given all of the things that happen throughout the day, and load is how that stacks up and what we put ourselves into. So let's correlate the two and talk about how some of the things that we see in the gym, like overtraining or injury proneness or the inability to lose weight, the inability to make gains, those kind of things relate to this and relate to kind of what we discussed yesterday in the daily cycle of working out and boredom and stress and those kind of things. So what you'll see here, you'll see a graph or an XY axis really of load and capacity, where the X, is this the X axis, is load and this one is capacity. So you could consider this a day, and then here's the next day, and then here's the next day, and here's the next day, and so on and so forth. Our load is what we throw on top of ourselves in a given day, and our capacity shows us what we can do over time. Things that make up our capacity are going to be anatomical deficiencies. Those are things that old injuries that we've had in the past, new injuries that come up, mobile limitations, flexibility, those kind of things. Sleep, and that'll be labeled AD. We'll get to that in a minute. Stress, diet, and sleep. That makes up a big box of what is going to go into your load for the day. If you have a high-stress job, or you manage a family, or you don't get a lot of sleep, you drink too much caffeine, your diet, etc. SDS is what we're going to label that. That's a huge piece of being able to operate within your capacity. Then we have our functional diagnosis. Those are the things that are currently wrong with you and your limitations. Anatomical deficiencies, we kind of grew up with. The functional diagnosis is what has happened recently or we're currently undergoing. Real quick. Think of this as your limitations, right? So we have, and a good example of this would be if we have somebody come in that literally can't squat below a quarter squat versus somebody who can squat all the way down with maybe a rounded back versus somebody who can squat all the way down with a nice solid straight back. Versus anatomical deficiencies, which would be, I broke my ankle back in '89, just to give you an idea. Then we have our daily wants and needs, our hobbies, our requirements, those kind of things. Housework is one of those. Again, a hobby, your normal workload, and then the gym, assuming you're active. That's why we're having this discussion. So what we're going to do is take this in a given day and show you how it relates to what your current capacity is and why CrossFit and what we do is important to be able to manage your day-to-day. So let's say that we have our functional diagnosis here. These are the things that we can and can't do. We wake up with them every single day, and we really can't get rid of them. We can decrease that box over time by working on things like flexibility, mobility, and things like that. But for the most part, it's going to be pretty static unless we are actively chasing whatever goal that may be. Next, we have our stress, diet, and sleep, which for some and most is going to be a pretty large chunk of your day. That's going to suck away or pull away from your current operating capacity. Then your functional diagnosis. Let's say you currently have a injury on your shoulder, or you have a back problem, or you're limited by just something, right? These boxes can fluctuate over time, and we'll get to that in a minute. But case in point here, let's say you wake up in the morning and you have your normal house duties, kids, cleaning up a little bit, doing some laundry before you get out, yada, yada, yada. That soaks up a little bit more. Then we have work. And then we have our workout. And you can see, these are arbitrary numbers, but I'm trying to paint you a picture here. You can see that by the time we get to work out, especially if it's in the afternoon, we've already exceeded our capacity, right? And so, we get in there, you're feeling kind of run down, and then you pick up a deadlift that day, and you wrench your back, right? It's because you're beyond your load for the day and your current capacity. Now, where problems start running into capacity is what I made notes up here. Greater than capacity starts producing problems. That means you'll have low recovery. That also means you'll have the low ability to actually increase your capacity. When we are operating below our capacity, we don't have problems for the most part. We have higher recovery, and then we have the ability to increase that capacity. And so, how do we balance this equation? And I'm going to give you two examples of somebody that we normally see and relate them to this project here. We have person A. They're all under the same guidelines. Sleep, job stress. Are they hydrated? Do they have other stress? Do they have current injuries? Do they eat well? Pretty basic outline, but some things that we would expect to see and work with you on if we're trying to hit certain goals. So person A, this person gets 8 hours of sleep a night, has no job stress, stays hydrated throughout the day, meaning drinks probably half a gallon to a gallon of water depending on their body weight. Stress, has no other stress in their life, simple terms, it's all relative. No injuries currently, and eats well under certain guidelines that we may have laid out. Maybe they track their macros, follow paleo, whatever. Just follow some form of eating and diet. Versus person B, who has gotten 4 hours of sleep, has a high-stress job, does not hydrate, drinks more coffee than they need to, has other stress in their life, maybe with kids or family or spouse, has some current injuries, both past and present. Maybe they have a bad back from football or something, and doesn't eat well. You can see the two varying degrees of person here, but it's not too far off of what we can see in the gym. But that doesn't mean that person B can't make some changes to look closer to person A. If I was to put these two people up here, just in the current capacity standpoint, this would be A, and then person B would be down here somewhere, right? Meaning they have less capacity throughout the day because they're not managing some of the aspects of their life. And so where this comes in over here, as I mentioned earlier, these are general boxes. We don't really know where our operating capacity is. We just know that if we manage these three lower things, these anatomical deficiencies, stress, diet, sleep, our functional diagnosis, if we manage those, we know that we have the ability to work closer to our current capacity, okay? So let's say that I've been working on my diagnosis over time. I've been managing my stress by getting more sleep, doing some mental work, meditating, visualization, float pods, quiet time, those kind of things. And I cut my stress in half. And then, this was anatomical deficiencies. And this was functional. And then I work on my functional deficiencies over time, and I've decreased those, even if it was the same size. But let's just say, for instance, I have decreased them because I've gotten my injuries in order, or I've worked on my mobility. I now have a bigger range of motion to do work, etc. Assuming nothing else changes above that, we've now operated within our capacity. But you can see here that person B is still well above their capacity. Now, person B is the type of person who sits around wondering why they're constantly hurt all the time, why they feel like crap, why they make no gains in the gym, and why they have nagging, recurring injuries, and that old injury from college keeps poking up. Versus person A, who maybe has the same past injury in their back, but because they're operating below their capacity, it doesn't give them any problems. Now, the beauty of CrossFit. CrossFit's technical definition is increased work capacity across broad times and modal domains. Right? So let's break that down really quick. Increased work capacity across broad times and modal domains. What does that mean? That means we can increase our capacity by working across broad times. That means doing workouts that range from 2 minutes all the way up to 30 minutes to an hour. And modal domains means using different forms and functions to achieve that increased work capacity. Snatches, cleans, kettlebell swings, presses, running, rowing, wall balls, box jumps. Get where I'm going with that? So, assuming we are operating under our capacity, following these rules here, it would make sense that if we can increase our capacity to here, let's call this increase work capacity. Now look how much more room we have to fudge. That doesn't mean you get to fudge it. That just means you're becoming more fit. And the only way to be able to increase your work capacity is by managing these things here. That means doing quality reps. That means not overloading yourself with weight beyond what you can handle, especially on a day where you may have had high stress, low sleep, too much caffeine. Because even for somebody like myself that has been doing this a long time and our movement for the most part is fairly clean, even the best movement can put you over your capacity. It's about what you can handle for the day over a period of time, right? So the big take home here, and kind of the biggest one that we can work on immediately, which relates to the conversation yesterday about boredom, which leads into other aspects, which leads into sitting too much, which leads into eating the wrong foods, it leads into drinking too much, it leads into inactivity. I think I already said that one. But if we could manage this one right here, we can have some of the biggest impact on our work capacity in a given day, week, month, and year. And I talk about that so much, guys. You have to get good sleep. I know too many of us that are in this neighborhood right here, even if it's 5 to 6 hours, it's still too little. I know some of us feel like I operate the best on 5 or 6 hours, but it's just not the case. You have to get good sleep. You have to do things to manage stress, ice baths. You meditate, do some mental clearing, talk to somebody who's in that profession you can let some of the things you're holding onto out. Those kind of stress reliefs. Go on a long walk. Find things that you can do that relieve stress or take things out of your life that cause stress. One of the bigger stress additives, especially when we are sitting here, is not only working out, but it's the stress of not moving, the stress that too much alcohol can put on your body, the stress that too much caffeine can put on your body, the stress that not enough water can put on your body, the stress that the wrong food sources can put on your body. All of that fits into that category. So if we say, hey, I'm going to start getting 8 hours of sleep a night, I'm going to start eating better, I'm going to start meditating for 20 minutes a day, I'm going to take an ice bath in the morning, I'm going to read before I go to bed instead of watching TV, this box decreases. Because again, the reality here is for most of us, this box is probably like that. So your goal, after hopefully watching this video today, is to take what I show you here, figure out what's filling up your box, figure out what's filling up these other boxes, and how you can manage them to help yourself increase your work capacity. Because that's what we're trying to do. Trying to make better versions of you, and especially during this time that we have to be able to do so. Y'all have a great day.